Hey guys, welcome back to Celebrate the Struggle. And I have here with me today Jill Riley. Welcome, Jill.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm super excited to talk to Jill because I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple of weeks when I got to be on her podcast, Post Traumatic Faith. As a matter of fact, when I came across it, like those profound words right there, I like learning a lot about post traumatic growth. And so post traumatic faith is such a huge part of it. So Jill is an author, a blogger, and has been was a minister, or we'll learn more about that, for over 30 years. And like she just very much is drawn to the conversations of mental health, as she has really struggled, and has struggled, the word, yes, struggled, but also
Yeah,
continued to
yeah, it
grow.
works. Yeah.
Right. With her own mental health issues. And so I'm going to stop there. Thank you again for being on here. And I would really just like for you to take us back a little bit, like there's so much that comes before this conversation here in our life. And so what does your journey look like, Jill? What has brought us being able to have the pleasure of meeting and you on this journey to bring more awareness?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I'll just kind of do the bird's eye view, but I was abandoned and adopted in Korea. And then I was adopted to somebody in the United States. And then they abandoned me, and I ended up being readopted to another family. And that family had an older brother and an older sister, and my parents. And before my parents divorced, like 2 years after I got there, 2 years, 3 years after I got there, my father molested both my sister and myself.
Mm.
And and so we went to so that was obviously deeply impactful on both of our lives. And then we went to North Idaho, presumably to get away from him. But my mother was extraordinarily violent, very, very violent in her discipline and in her anger and all that. And when I say that, I mean there are times when I remember checking my clothes to make sure no blood was coming through so nobody could see it. She was extraordinarily mean. And she was a broken person and trying to raise kids. And it was just really difficult. So that was kind of the ball of yuck that
Mm.
kind of created a lot of the mental health issues. I always had I was raised in the church, and always had this feeling that God was real. God could still be good. And to me, I always kind of had that separated people from the people of the church from God, and was able to stay focused on that. So when I was 14, I knew I wanted to become a minister. And so I pursued that. And my first job as a minister was when I was 19, or no, 17. And I was in college, and started working with a youth group, and went from there. Started 3 churches, and
Wow. That's
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And pastored for quite a long time, for the bulk of my life, until I had I had a complete nervous breakdown, meltdown. It's 7 years ago, almost exactly 7 years ago. That was the introduction to me 7 years ago of all of the mental health difficulties that I was having, that I was unaware of. So this is kind
Mm.
of late breaking for me. It's not like my whole life I've been aware of mental illness or mental struggle. So
So that's where I think you really just made that clear. That's where your like breakdown came from. Like you didn't realize that all this was being put into places that.
right, one of my psychiatrists said that, he said, Joe, one of my PTSD signs is, they call it traumatic organization. And he said, it's like something happened and it's a book, and you put it on the shelf, and then something else happens and you put it away. And they said, and now the shelf broke and you've got a mess everywhere. It's just like everything just busted open at once. And that was really scary.
And I feel like I've, definitely heard that from people. And the traumatic organization, it gives a very good um term to it to describe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just have to say that holy cow, when I think of when I as life goes on and these different things that have happened, like whether it was in the military or a lot outside of the military, I kind of joke about how, like, man, or like right now, like my mom going through more stuff, even though we've gone through so much in the past how
Right.
many years. And I joke about, like, man, God really wants to use us. When I joke about, like, me, my family and the things we've been through, I'm like, man, God just really wants to use us to. So I think of that when you're like, holy moly, all your story and the plethora and depth of trauma that's come to your life from the moment you were born. And then
Right.
you'd think, yeah, again, here's my, sarcastic personality. You would think that, like, being abandoned a few times and all that was enough for God to make you a child of God who's going to spread his word. But no, he wanted to make
But
sure.
my favorite thing is when people are like, "Oh, this will just make you stronger." And I'm like, "Yeah, I never signed up for that.
Right.
I that's not exactly what I wanted. I mean, there's truth in that. You do get stronger through conflict and adversity, and but that's not what I really wanted. So it's true that the life that I've had has been complex, but there's really great things that have come out of my time. Also, I have four amazing kids, and they're all married, and I have a grandbaby, and they're all seem to be healthy and well adjusted, and doing well. So that's just a huge blessing to me that my family is intact and doing well.
Hmm. And I just want to say, I think it's a huge blessing to the world that through your choices, through your healing, you have now helped others through 30, not just through 30 years of ministry, which is amazing. And, but even just 30 years of life and 30 years of
Yeah.
conversations and 30 years of your own struggles, which then end up helping other people, like that, I find incredible and super cool, which is such a basic adjective, but
It
super
works.
cool that you have used all of that to help other people and continue on that path. So, wow.
Well, I started a blog at one point because I was struggling to explain to people my mental illness and what was going on. And so I
Mhm.
thought I'm going to write 100 days. So I started a 100-day blog. And in this, I started to describe what was going on with my mental health. And about 10 days into it, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put this out there and people can read it. And so I started making it more public, and people started to understand a little bit more about what it had happened to me and what was going on. And I think opening myself up to sharing my story has really been healing and has been good for me to be able to share that. And at one point, the blog turned into a podcast, and I'm just finishing recording my third season. And so, yeah, I hope it's helpful to others, but it is ultimately very helpful to me.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I bet you've had some incredible conversations with other people as well through your podcast. So, here I go with more questions and pick your brain. So your own self-care. I really like to talk to people about, what do you do just for Jill to make sure you fill your soul with whatever it is that is your self-care.
Yeah. You can maybe tell by the desk behind me, but I'm an artist and I paint, I do watercolors. And so that has been good for me. I don't work very much because I'm not able to handle very much stress at all.
Mhm.
Because my body just goes wacky if my brain goes wacky if it's too stressed. So I do a lot of writing, and that is really nourishing for me. And so beyond, my own spiritual health and physical health, I swim 3 days a week. I like swimming. I reached a half mile the other day, so I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
And so swimming, I really love the water. I just love being in it. So that's a good thing.
neat. Very neat. I When you write, do you typically like journal daily or do you go out on a mission? Like, I guess my question is, are you a pantser or a plotter? Like, do you go in with a certain mission or do you just have this creative vibe that you sit down when you feel it and
Well, I blog, not blog. I journal sometimes, occasionally. I write in spurts. I mean, I wrote for a couple of magazines and that was a job and that's what I did. But I write in spurts. Like I just joined another writing group, and I I will write thousands of words by virtue of being in a group. So I need like a deadline or somebody chomping at me to say,
me
get
too.
busy.
Me too, Jill. Me too. I've been like working on this second book for a year and I just joined her like 30-day writing challenge and it's really just all it's and again like it also goes back to your post-traumatic growth and your post-traumatic faith like it's a at a certain point. I don't want to downplay anybody's the things that have happened in their life, but it really does come down to like choices that we make and how we
Right.
follow through with things.
Right. And
You
I want it to come from a creative place and an artistic place and a genuine place, not I
for
have to. So yeah, exactly.
absolutely. As I was reading through your bio and a little bit about you, you had mentioned, which having quite a few years in education and special education, I was surprised that it's not one I've heard about a lot, and that was the disassociative. So does that align with the traumatic organization? Is the dis so can you tell us about that?
The dissociative disorder is separate. They all come from the same origin of, overstress and from my younger years and all that. But the dissociative disorder is, everybody dissociates. You're driving down the freeway and you realize you're two exits past where you wanted to get off at, or you're reading a book and you realize you quit focusing 10 minutes ago and you don't know what it was. So we all kind of detach from our present brain at some point. For me, with the dissociative disorder, what happens is my brain checks out and I lose time. And so actually, the technical term for the dissociative disorder that I have is dissociative identity disorder, DID, which is the former multiple personalities. But it doesn't register with me like I show up different places in different clothes and I don't know who I am. And I but it does manifest itself in the way that I lose time as I'm checked out someplace else, and then I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did, or I don't remember anything. And so that's for me, the dissociative disorder is a dissociation is a way to escape whatever current pain you're in or whatever current stress you're in. But it becomes maladaptive when it's doing it on when your brain is doing on its own when there's no longer a threat.
Hmm. I'm totally going to nerd out and research that because I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I like the way that the brain works and stuff like that. And um, Okay, before I get off on a tangent there, thank you for enlightening us and sharing that with us. As a child, well, I'm guessing since you had said, you got to this point where you had this breakdown. So like as a child, going through abandonment and adoption and molestation, do you, like if people were to look at the cover of your book, like judging you just by the cover, did it seem like you were this happy girl, or like did you seem to be a little beside yourself at times, struggle with stuff, or did all that come?
No, my family was all about the show, all about looking good and looking like you're okay to other people. And so from the outside, we were the perfect family, the perfect church going family with kids that excelled at everything. And we're just really, really, really high achievers and really close family. In the background, what was happening was my mother was so obsessed with us being the best and achieving that she was brutal in trying to accomplish that goal. It was as if our accomplishments fueled her instead of them being our accomplishment and being
Mhm,
okay to be ours and to own that. So she was really invested in us looking like the perfect family. So for me, yeah, I was a pretty happy kid and had friends, and I just had these huge secrets and scars behind my mask. And talking to some of my best childhood friends, they just feel so bad because as my story has come out, they know their parents had said, you need to watch for something, you need to watch for any signs of abuse. We think something's going on. And nobody ever knew because we were terrified to tell anybody what was going on. So from the outward appearance, we looked fine. Uh, from the inside, it was a hot mess.
mhm, yeah. Um, Although I clearly, writing and painting helps you to get some self-care and get that outlet over the years, what has significantly, and maybe it's your faith and scripture, but I'm curious, what has significantly just helped you to wrap your head around, diagnoses and what you need to do for yourself,
Yeah.
like, or what has helped you to grow, that might be good advice for other people to kind of work, continue on their path of healing.
You know, um, the diagnosis was very shocking for me because I didn't know that I was living with such severe mental illness. So in an ongoing way, the thing that has helped me the most is having therapists that know what's going on and that I can talk to. I've been in trauma therapy for 7 years now, and they help talk through the things that I can't reach by myself.
Mhm,
And so that has probably been the singular consistent thing that has helped a lot. Of course, I'm on a lot of medication. I don't love that, but I always have to look at it by this gives me a quality of life that I
mhm,
wouldn't have without it. And so I need to remember that my gratitude is that I get to have this life, and that I have access to those kinds of resources. But those have certainly helped with things like sleeping disorders and mood regulators and things like that. So
mhm.
without that, I might not be the person that I am right now.
Yes, it's factual, and it is what it is, and it's good that you can find those words right there, like it gives you quality of life, like that
Yeah,
right there is like one of those drop the mic moments, like there you go.
yeah,
um so I typically also really like to hear from people, because typically, like the people I've had the conversation with, people who come on here like yourself and get uncomfortable with, or get comfortable with the uncomfortable to talk about our struggles, like you guys are driven people, like exceptional people and creative, you're a writer and a painter and just really in touch with yourself. And so I typically like to ask people, like if money or other resources, time, there's that huge one, time, diagnoses, any of that, if all of that was not a factor or an issue, what do you wish like you could, I mean, you've already done so much, like 30 years of touching people's lives and being a part of opening 3 churches, but in the time that you have left on this world, whether it be a day or however much, what would you really like to continue doing or see happen, or like if you could just reach this, make this happen, what are your big old dreams that people might seem far-fetched, but I think they're amazing? Let's hear them.
Yeah, for me, one of my very simple, not maybe dreams, not maybe a goals, but the way I live is that I want to be healthy enough to see my grandchildren and watch them grow and be a part of their lives. I'm in that grandparenting phase, so I'm getting old, Jennifer. But um you know, the big dream, one of the big dreams is I would like to finish and publish a book about my life, and that's what I keep whittling away at. And so someday I would love to see that to fruition, and that would be really
Mhm.
really gratifying for me. And you know that, you know, for my kids and for like my nieces and nephews, and I think it would be something that would help them to understand a little bit more about me, and have some kind of a memoriam that would be meaningful to them. So that's one of the biggest goals that I have.
Absolutely. And I love that you're even writing it, you know, other people, let me finish that sentence. I love that you're even writing it down. Um, Other people who have talked about it, even if they're not interested in writing, publishing a book, I've encouraged them, like, absolutely, you got to put that down on paper. Like your
Mhm.
grandkids, your great grandkids, like generations to come are not going to know, like most of us, we don't know a lot about our ancestors. I don't.
Right.
So to be able to have something etched in stone there. But I think what was another drop the mic moment is where you just said, like, your health, you want to be healthy around, so that again, that quality of life that you have with your family. And I love that. That is definitely a goal of mine.
Yeah.
Well, Jill, what is there? Have I missed anything that you would like to share with us?
No, I just really appreciate your work and appreciate being on the podcast. And I think the more we share our stories and the more we allow ourselves to be open to what's going on around us, it is helpful to other people because we see ourselves in other people's struggles. And I think the more honest we are, the better that people can see that there is hope in
Hmm.
overcoming some of these challenges.
Hmm. And I think even myself needs to be reminded of that at times too, right? We're only human. Thank you for coming on, and I look forward to continue just following you. As a matter of fact, we will make sure we put it in the social media notes. But how can people stalk you, Jill?
The easiest way to stalk me is jillriley.com. And from there, all my social media links, the blog, the podcast, that's the easiest entry point. I'm on, you know, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that, but all those links are on there. So
Mhm. And like I said, if you are watching this or listening, that will be in the show notes. So stop trying to write while you drive, even though I want to stalk you soon. But thanks again, Jill, for coming to get comfortable with the uncomfortable and share the struggle and just own it and show that we can just grow even more profound into the people that we're meant to be from it.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.